What's up everyone, John here from CONTRABIM, and in today's tutorial we are going to dive into the Archicad library part maker. In today's video we'll be using the version 25, but I believe it's available in, I can't remember if it started in 23 or 24, but yeah, it's been around for a few versions. I was actually looking on YouTube to see if there's any tutorial videos on it. I was not finding much except for what was published by Graphisoft. So today we're going to dive into it and yeah, go through kind of step by step for creating a new light fixture in this case. And as we go through this, we're going to kind of point out the keys to the workflow, and we'll talk about some different modeling techniques as well. Today we're going to be building a light fixture, and we'll be using some different morph modeling techniques to kind of create some complex geometry on it. So, okay, if you want to use the library part maker, then first off, this is an extra download and installation that you need to go and add. When you have done so, you'll see that you'll get this new palette down here that says the library part maker. That's what that palette is that was on the screen there. So we're going to turn it off and turn it back on. So this is kind of the main working panel when creating objects. You can see I only have a few loaded up here. I've been kind of going through and playing around with it a bit, rigging up kind of a structure here in the CONTRABIM template so that it's really easy to build these objects with. We've been kind of creating some basic design tools, some 2D symbols, and then you can see here we have some regions here that we've created a few objects with already, and then some completed objects over on the right. So so the whole concept behind this is we'll kind of walk through this step by step here and point things out as we go through it. But we're going to create a new library part here. We're just going to call this a light barn fixture. Okay. And we are going to mark the design area here. And I've been kind of stacking them here, and we're just going to kind of add one right off to the side. I've been trying to keep these somewhat compact, so we're going to set this to 10 by 10. And so as soon as we hit this, you'll see that it automatically added that label to it up there, and we're just going to kind of pull this over here to the side. We'll be building this within this area. So that's the first step here. Is now that we've created a new light or a new object section here, we can see that we have this new region, and yeah, we haven't added any components to it. We'll do that here in a second, but once you've created it here, you can go through, and usually it's good just to kind of check these and, like, you know, choose what properties you want to be listing, whether it's just from your basic property scheme or from a spreadsheet. There are some other options there as well. The details here, so that's just our name. We can put the author in there as well. There are some more options here as well. You know, these are kind of the typical object settings, so we can go in and set those, and we can create a preview of this later on. So okay, so that's kind of the first step here, is just the general review of the panel. Let's do this. I've been actually liking just to kind of keep things organized here. I've been actually using just kind of like a general little like rig of a grid here. These are just lines. We are not going to be assigning these to any of the parts or the components over here, but we will kind of start creating the structure here by really the first step is adding a dimension tool here. So what I've been doing is I've been adding these dimension objects. These are kind of like the base point for the different objects, and you can see here, I should probably talk about this a little bit. Let's actually do this. We're going to kind of switch things within this component section. We have all these different component options here. The top one here is like a 3D model schematic. So if we click on this and we actually turn on this selection here, you can see that this turned green because we are now selecting this. And it's actually going to do the same thing down here on this generic like table that I built. And it's also going to do the same similar selection down here on this window. So you can see that we are highlighting things here in green when we turn on that 3D model schematic. So this is kind of how we can connect and assign different parts and pieces to these different statuses. So if we go to like a simplified here, you can see that that's going to switch over, and now we have this 3D model simplified, and it's going through and highlighting these. So same thing with the 3D full. You can see that we are now selecting these in on the floor plan here. It works the same way. If we were to go and to just grab all these, we're going to do a marquee around this real quick so you can see what's laid out here. So as we switch these over, you can see our 3D model full, the simplified versions. It doesn't really matter what library part you're on the top there. This is going to update in that same manner. So I actually see we have an element over here that I need to add to that as well. And so let's see. I've noticed sometimes it's been a little bit tough to get some of these to actually stick. Like in this case, I'm trying to assign that there, but for whatever reason, that one is not wanting to go, but it did show up here in the 2D, so it's a little bit strange. I think this is, you know, not too glitchy so far what I've seen, but I have found that there are little quirks in it. So yeah, okay, so that's kind of the baseline, or the base here is like we go through, we assign these different for each different position here, we need to have a dimension marker. So that provides essentially like the dimension origin point. And so that works the same way with obviously the 3D and the 2D symbols. So we can see that those will get selected here as well. The 2D symbols are really all just determined by lines and fills. So there is no 3D content that generates those there. But yeah, that's, we also have, you know, for the 2D, we have, like electrical symbols here. So this is like a 2D electrical representation or a 2D reflected ceiling representation here on this light fixture is kind of like our full kind of view of that box there. So when we actually go here and we change our model view options, you'll see that this is going to change depending on what we have specified in our model view options. So that's kind of the nice thing with this, is that these objects will change depending. So we go here to see this in 3D. We're going to turn off our view there. You can see there's our light. We can switch this over so that we're on like a medium detail. You can see that's going to change based on whatever setting we determine, which is awesome. That's the power behind this workflow. So okay, let's go ahead and we're going to kind of move this forward a little bit and start building up a new light fixture here. So the first step here is let's just go and start assigning kind of our base points. So we're going to assign this to our 3D model schematic. We'll turn on our highlight there just to make sure that we can see it. Make sure that we're assigning it there. We're going to copy this and switch that over. So now we are on our simplified, and then we're going to once again add our base point for our full. So you can see that as we change these through here, those are going to change depending on what we are looking at there. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing down here. We're going to assign this to like our 2D symbol low. We're going to assign this one here to be like our 2D symbol electrical. And then we're going to do this as our 2D symbol reflected ceiling plan. So, and I'm actually going to copy these over here because the light fixtures are a little bit different in terms of like, you know, how we are naming them versus just like the low, or sorry, schematic, simplified, and full detail. I am just going to provide these notes here just to kind of make sure that I'm you know, clear on which one is which. So okay, so there we go. We now have our base points. We're going to turn off this selection here, and so that we can just kind of see this in our view. Okay, so that's kind of the setting up of this rig. Let's take a closer look at the object that we are actually going to be building, and I'm going to pull up, let's see, where's my web page here? There it is. So we are going to be building actually this similar fixture right here. It's going to be kind of like a gooseneck style barn fixture. Let's go look at the the actual settings here. So we're going to be building this kind of original LED warehouse gooseneck. This is provided by the Barn Light Electric Company, so shout out to them. This video is not sponsored by them or anything, but we're just going to be building this for one of our projects that we're going to be specifying this on. So what's nice about this website here is it does have a lot of the different details that we want to be working with. We're going to be building a, I think we're building the 16-inch shade here, so we can actually, you know, specify that there. There's actually a lot of downloads related to this, which was awesome. So we have our specification sheet. We did already grab the IES files, which we'll talk about and add to the product or to our object as well. There's some different specifications here and installation instructions, but yeah, so we have gone ahead and kind of grabbed some of these parts and pieces here. I've already downloaded a few of them here, so let's take a look at some of these. So we have our gooseneck specification. Here you can see that there's a lot of different options here for the gooseneck. I think we're probably going to be using something like this, is I think kind of like the standard gooseneck shape. There are some other sizes, but we'll be using this one here, so we'll reference this in a minute. Let's check out the finishes here. So we can always change the finishes later on in the object settings. Not sure what finish we'll actually end up using, but nice to see these different options there. And then the other one I wanted to pull up is kind of the main spec here. And so we are going to be using, yeah, I think it's the 16-inch luminaire shade is what we'll be using. So it's going to look pretty much essentially like this with a 16-inch shade there. So okay, so let's do this. We'll bring in just a few quick references here. So we'll probably bring in this sheet because it is kind of a nice reference for our shade. And then we'll also bring in this sheet here just so that we can make sure that we get this set as well. And so let's go ahead and we're going to bring in just those two quick reference files here, and we will kind of build our object based off those. So so yeah, the first one here, let's expand this, and I want my, oh, where is it? Not that one. Sorry, too many folders pulled up here. It is our, there we go. So yeah, we are going to be bringing in, let's start with our gooseneck specification. And we're going to be using one off this sheet. So we're going to go ahead and place this. And we're going to, what we'll actually do is we're going to just kind of crop this down a little bit. We're going to be using that G22 as our reference here. So not sure about the scale when we brought this in, but what we can do is we can do a quick measurement on this and see. So yeah, obviously that's not the size that we need. So what we'll actually do here is let's go ahead. We are going to explode this into our current view. And we're going to delete our reference there in the background. And then we are going to rescale this, or resize this with that Control K move, and then we're going to get this exact so that we are at 23.75 inches. And so now we have this scaled as kind of our base point. So so as we're going to build this, the order that I want to kind of, you know, approach this as is we'll start with like our full level of detail here, and then we'll kind of work our way backwards and do some simplifications of it. So so that way we can get the exact dimensions, the exact size of our full level of detail, and then we'll kind of roll things backward and simplify. So okay, so there we go. We now have kind of our gooseneck shape as well as our base here for that wall mount situation there. A lot of detail here that came through that PDF. We are not going to use all of that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get our shade in here as well. So I'm once again going to pull up our reference folder here, and we're going to drag and drop this, and we're going to bring in this view that had those nice shade profiles there. So, okay, so there we go. Once again, this is kind of in the wrong the wrong scale, of course. What we'll likely do is, and I'm looking at this here, just kind of seeing which one. This one does not have this extra little hardware on top there, which we probably want to include. So we may end up using this one as a reference, but let's start by doing this. So we are going to kind of crop things down a little bit once again, and we'll explode this. So we know we're going to be using this 16-inch shade. So there's the G22. That's actually the same one that we exploded up above. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to explode this one once again. Okay. And we're going to delete that background. And so now we already have this base, so that's good. But what I want to do here is I'm going to suspend my groups. We're going to grab this, and we are going to do a Control K so that our dimension B is exactly 16 inches. So we're keeping this all in scale, 16 inches. And now that we've done that, we can do this. If we're going to try to match these shades, I'm going to do this. This might be a little bit funny of a workflow, but we're going to take this edge point here. We're going to come in and find that same edge point. We're going to rescale this down. A little different profile on those, but that's okay. And we're going to shrink this up so that our width is exactly the same. And then this little detail here on top with that radius, we're going to drag this down. Okay, so we have that radius there. We don't need that, but we can add our little cap on there. Sorry. We're not going to actually be using this much detail, but I want this to be like pretty well set to how we are going to be modeling this. So, okay, so there is our size. So I do want to just check 7.75 inches. Let's see how that looks. So we're a little bit off there. So yeah, maybe this didn't come through exactly how we wanted on that size. It's pretty close. We could, if we wanted to get this exact to 7.75 inches, let's see. I'm going to just make a copy. We're just going to pull this up, 7.75 inches. So that's essentially where our top would be. We could take this, and if we want to get this exact, we can kind of shrink this down, and then we can just kind of reconnect these here. And so that's going to keep us at least in the same proportions as this. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So we can go ahead and run with these now. So, okay, I'm going to get rid of all these kind of little side points that we have here. I'll kind of get rid of all these. Get rid of some of this extra line work. And let's kind of match this up now with what we have, or with our actual gooseneck fixture over there. So we're going to take this. Let's go find our piece over here. Now, I may want to find like a nice clean center point here. So if we have a line, well, that's actually not, that's a polyline there. So what we're going to do is we're going to just draw a line straight across. And we're going to draw a line vertically here so that we have kind of a nice clean center point to work off of. And yeah, let's take this. We're going to certainly want to clean this one up as well. Got some text in here. A lot of this is just going to disappear once we start actually building our object. But yeah, for now, let's just align these. And we are going to kind of shift this up, and we're just going to snap it right to that point. And so yeah, that is kind of where we are going to set this for our next step here, which is going to be the modeling component. So took a little bit there to get this right, but I'm pretty confident that we have this in a very nice orientation that we can now continue with modeling. So looking at this here, there's really kind of I would say 3 different components for how we can build this. We're going to have the base over on this edge here. And looking at this here, this kind of looks a little funny because maybe, well, I'm looking at this. Maybe this is this kind of a secondary piece here. I was thinking there's going to be one kind of rotated profile that we would be working with here. I think what we'll do here is we're gonna add another center line over on this side. So from this point down to this point, I want a center line here. And so that looks good until we get out to this point. But from here, 51/64, yeah, I think we're going to be rotating around this. So I'm not sure what this little piece is. Maybe that's just a little bracket or support there on the bottom. But I think, yeah, we're going to be working with it in this direction. So, okay, let's continue on here. We've definitely spent our time getting this going. So we are going to go and start with a morph here. So in this case, we're going to be using a revolve geometry on this. And we'll start kind of with going straight down our center line. So we're going to work our way in this direction here. We are going to come up, and I'm not going to have kind of the chamfered or the filleted edge here. We could put, like, you know, a small one in there if we wanted, but I try to avoid the radiuses on these just because it can make the you know, the morph, you know, much heavier than it needs to be. So we're just going to kind of go with a simplified outline here. Again, we have all these little kind of jagged parts and pieces. We'll go with it for now. It may make this just a little bit heavier than what we want, but it'll definitely add a little more realism at the same time. So we'll just add kind of a few here. And yeah, this is going to end up having a lot of faces on it, but that's okay. It's going to be a nice kind of detailed object here. Oops, I got off a little on that one, but okay, so we're going to bring this down to our point. Now this next step is really important. We need to enter the force point of our revolution axis, which we want it to be directly on this line here. So doesn't need to be inside. We can go on the outside, but yeah, we need to just pick, and then we need to make sure that we are getting that preview of that full rotation there. So I always like kind of clicking and then making sure that we are getting the whole thing coming through, and we just want to make sure that we are kind of stuck right on that same axis there. And yeah, let's click to finish this. We are going the full 360 degrees there. And so now we have our morph. Let's see, where's a little bit tough to select that morph there with all that extra line work. So let's do this. We're going to pick up all of our line work and our, well, a lot of polylines that we had created there. I'm going to deselect that one, And okay, so there's our new object. Awesome. Okay, so that would be kind of part one here. Now we're not seeing the whole display of it there just yet. We'll have to check our object settings there, but yeah, there it is, kind of nice and detailed. And yeah, from here we can take this to our next step, which is going to be doing the gooseneck component of it. Actually, you know, I say that, but let's actually go and let's complete our lamp down here as well. So we're actually going to start this right from this point, and we're going to come straight down first, and let's get a little bit of a radius there on that edge. So if we want to try to get a little bit more radius there, then we can just kind of change our input method. We can do this again. So okay, so we're going to create this to be a little bit more curved in this case. We don't have too many of these fixtures on the project, so shouldn't kill us too much on our poly counts, but yeah, let's just get these kind of nice and clean. And we'll do a little bit of inspection later on just to see how many faces we're actually adding to these revolved objects here. So we're going to simplify this top piece just a little bit. We're going to kind of take a little bit of an average through there. And so I believe we're on that top line here and should be able to come in. And okay, so next step here, we need to once again do kind of our extrusion. So we're going to click on our center line here. I want to make sure that we get that full preview all the way through. So sometimes it doesn't, but there we go. I can see those dark lines there. And once again, we're doing 360. And okay, so we have those two now set, which is great. This next step here, I'm actually going to start this. Really, we need to connect these by means of these, you know, by what we're actually going to do here is we're going to extrude a circular shape here to kind of complete this gooseneck for us. But what I want to do to begin with is, well, I want to try to offset all of these if I can, and I just want to create a bit of a copy here so that we can get like a center line essentially. So from here, and this is actually going to help with having a 3D reference of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to, with our morph, we're actually going to draw kind of a center line here. And so from this point, I'm really trying to make sure that we are sloping this exactly the same. Like I want to just get that exact center point there. So we're going to do a little bit more work on this. We're going to take this point, we're going to stretch it over, we're going to take this polyline, and we're going to create an offset set copy to right there. And so now we have pretty good reference to take our morph. We're going to go straight out. We're going to stick this right on. And so you'll see where this single morph is really going to come into play. Okay, so I totally screwed that one up because I was on the wrong input method. So let's redo that here real quick. So we're going to kind of bring this along. I want to curve it on this edge. Kind of follow our path here. And we're going to stop this right down at the bottom there. Okay, so let's inspect this once again. Okay, so there's our 2 points. We can see our center point there. Now these extrusions got a little bit off, so what I'm actually going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to use this line here as like our base point. And what we'll actually do here is, let's do this. We're going to, with our morph, we're going to create essentially our profile here. And so there we go. We now have this. I find that it always is easier to rotate these things in 2D. It is important, or what we want to do here is, like this point here is important for when we're extruding things. Actually, it may not be so important. Let's do this. I'm going to grab all this. Now, what we obviously need to do here is we need to rotate this. So we are going to need to change our rotation. Oh. Usually when rotating something like this, I like having a square element or a square face to work off of. So let's just create one right here. We'll just send this up a foot. We can put this right on our center line. There's going to be a few adjustments that we'll need to make here, but it's important to get this circle aligned really closely to our to the center point there. So okay, yeah, this is going to take a little bit of work, a few adjustments. Okay, so there we go. And what's nice with this is we should have that center point there, so we're going to be able to take this and we're going to drag it right up. We're going to snap it right there. And okay, so next step, we're going to move this over so that it is right on our face here. Or pretty close to. We can always extrude that end there later on. But yeah, now is the time that we can take this, and when we go to extrude this, it's really important that we are clicking on our center point there to begin this extrusion, because that's the point. You can see that little black dot there that's right on this line. That's the point that we want to be extruding from, not from any point on the edge or the side, because that would get us off when we come to actually trying to, create this kind of, rotated shape here. So okay, so there we go. We've found our first node there that we have on our reference line. Next up is obviously we want to find our next point on that reference. So from here, it's pretty easy. We're just using that reference 3D morph point there that we had created originally. And now we're just trying to get this set as best as we possibly can. And I'm looking for that final point. I see it there, but it's not quite like fully like in line with where I thought it was. So that's one that maybe we should have cleaned up a little bit more. I think I'm happy with just like bringing this. I don't want to go too far here, but yeah, I guess we're going to go with that point there. And then we're going to kind of finish this off. And if we need to make a slight adjustment, we can. But yeah, hopefully that's going to do it. It looks pretty good, I would say. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. So, okay, awesome. So last step here is let's just take all of our morphs, with exception of our center line we no longer need, and we are going to group these. And actually what we'll do, we could even union them. Well, maybe we'll do that later. But yeah, okay, from here, obviously we need to rotate this. So we are going to rotate this from our center point over on this side. We got lots of little center points there you can see popping up, but let's find one over here. Now it doesn't really matter that much where this point is. All we need to make sure though is that we're taking this and rotating this an even 90 degrees. So, okay, there is our light fixture. That looks pretty good. And all right, so there we go. I think we've already grouped this, but we're going to take this now. And so now that we've completed that, we are going to bring it into our zone here where we've started creating our object. And we can take this, and what I want to do is, I think we'll use, well, we got some options here. We can either use this as our base point, or we can use the center of the fixture as our base point. I'm kind of leaning towards the center of our fixture there, and yeah, let's run with that. So, so we need to actually assign this. It's not assigned. So this is going to be our 3D model full. Okay, so if we select this now, we can see that we have now assigned that to that status there, which is awesome. So, okay, next step here, we can kind of start, we got a few things that we can do. Let's do this. For our full representation here, like our 2D RCP, if we want this full detail here, then we can take our line tool and we can kind of create some outlines on this. So I'm hoping that's not going to go crazy. So we could do that. Probably going to be cleaner in this case to just create a few circles though. So we're going to set these to our 2D reflected ceiling plan. So that's what this is. So we're going to set that. We are going to model maybe a few more here just to kind of get that shape coming through. So let's pick up our circles there. And let's drag these over. And so now we're starting to get that coming through. Next up, I'm going to, well, I really want this to be kind of right on. So we are going to try this. We're going to create that shape with those lines. Now it's going to give us a lot of little lines there, but it should work okay for us. I'll actually see if we need to extrude that little face of our gooseneck just a little bit so that it's in there. Definitely is slow here to do the magic wand around these morphs, but it seemed to work on the main shade there. So let's continue with this. Really struggling there, but it made it. So, okay, so from this point, now since we have these guidelines, this does make it nice and easy just to kind of move these in a set path there. How many did it create? Here, 149. That's a lot of detail there that we probably don't need. So let's simplify that up just a little bit. So we're going to create a new kind of profile here. We're going to do that with this. So this is still a lot more detail than what we really need, but it's okay. So there we go. We're going to delete all of those there. We're going to mirror this around. And so now we have a much more simplified version of that. Okay, next step. Let's take our lines and we are just simply going to create kind of our gooseneck shape. And we're going to once again drag these down. Okay, so that's probably good for our symbol there. Now, of course, we can add fills to these as well if we wanted to. If we wanted to give it just a little bit more kind of definition here. So, you know, I need to make sure that we are on our modeling here for fills. So let's just add this. We're going to obviously... this is a material fill. We don't need that. Let's just make this a drafting fill, and it's going to be like 50%. And let's just kind of make this like a light gray with transparent background. So it's green right now because it's assigned to that. So we're going to pick up this fill. We are going to add one there and one there as well. So we'll have a little seam there. Not a big deal. We're going to take this. We are going to drag this out. And okay. So that is kind of our full detail with full fill turned on there. You can see it's all assigned to that version of it. So this next symbol here, we're just going to start kind of simplifying things down a little bit. So I'm actually going to take just like 2 of these maybe. We're going to copy these over. Now we're going to set this to our electrical, and we're going to do a little different type of symbol here by we're going to pull up our line. We're going to just kind of draw an X through this. If I can stick this to my guidelines here. So one in that direction, one in that direction. We're going to take these, rotate just like 45. And once again here, I want to pick these up. Gonna drag this over. So at least we have a reference here on our kind of base point there. And we are going to definitely do this a little bit more simplified. We're just going to use this as a reference. Okay, so, and even more simplified here, 2D low. We're just going to copy all of these over. We're going to select all of these and assign them to the 2D low. Okay, so we are moving right along. This next one here for the electrical model. Now, we really have some different choices here for how we want to represent this. I'm I'm actually thinking this would have been kind of nice there to actually just have this single line morph as part of this. So I'm kind of regretting right now not having moved that with the rest of our object. But doesn't mean that we can't get this to work for us. So let's try this. We're going to take it from our base point here. We're going to kind of roll this around. So there we can see our center line point. We are going to rotate this. Now I realize that we're definitely off, so we're going to be kind of pulling it away from things, but that's okay. We're going to take this and we're going to try to find like a nice kind of clean radius point here, which we can get if we hover over this and snap it right there. Okay, so there we go. So this next version here, you can see that there's our unassigned element. We are going to take all of these here. We're going to copy this over. So this is now going to be just a little bit simplified of a version here. Now the other thing is we're going to create another morph here. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but we're going to create a version of this that is very much more simplified. So we're just going to bring this straight up. We're going to kind of cut the corners on this. Extrude. Okay. So we're going to use this one instead. So of course we need to rotate that, and which we'll do here in this next step. I'm gonna do a marquee around these. There's our new simplified version, which actually doesn't look too different from our previous one, so that's okay. But yeah, let's rotate. We can find our point there, stick it to. We're going to grab all of these here and assign these to 3D model simplified. We'll leave that one with more full detail. Okay, so it looks like we got off just a little bit there. Not sure on that rotation. Now I can see that it's, when we rotated that, it did not rotate the way that we wanted. So got to be careful with that. That's why, again, I like using those references there, like a square box, something that we know is going to be like an easy face to work from. So once again, we're going to add kind of a little reference box here. We'll do this in line. 1 foot, okay. Bring back the marquee. So looks much more square. Great. Okay. go. So these are the 3D simplified. 3D simplified. Okay. All right. And finally here, this last one. I guess we're going to use that. We are going to create a morph. I'm going to do this. We're going to just create kind of a general circle here. Obviously need to rotate this. Set our working plane to vertically, which yeah. That's definitely way off. Okay, so try to do that without our little trusted reference point here, but did not work so well. So once again, create that reference. So all these here, we are going to set this to schematic. And then finally, we are almost there on this object. So let's rotate. Gonna extrude. And okay. So a little bit more simplified there. Okay, so now that we have these, let's do some checks. Actually, there's one more thing that we can go ahead and add here. But before we do that, before we actually add our light source, so that when we render with this, it will include that light source. Let's do a few quick checks here. So we're just going to start with our 3D model full, so we can see that, okay, that looks good. We have pretty much everything here. This morph that is selected here, we don't need anymore, so I'm going to pull this off to the side. And okay, so 3D full looks good. Simplified looks good. Schematic looks good. Our 2D symbol low, that looks good. Our electrical looks good. And our reflected ceiling plan. Okay, so we have a few more things that we need to do here. And one of them being, we want to add a few hotspots here. So I'm just going to, we'll try to get this right on where we want them. And we can just add a few here so that it's easier to grab these elements later on. So we're going to just add them at the corners. And that should be plenty for that one. So let's do the electrical. So I'm going to add one right in the center. We're going to add one at each of these 4 corners, and then we'll just do one at the base. Our low, we're just going to add one right in the base again, one there, and we'll do it at the four corners also. Okay, so all right, we are almost done with this object. We got several different variations of it now. Let's finish this off by bringing in actually one of the nice things with our download from our website there was that we have the actual IES files. So for our 16-inch shade, we actually have some different files here. What are these checkpoints? Not sure what those are, but for these we have either a dome or a flat at either 3000 lumens or 1250 lumens. I'm not sure the difference between these. I think in our guide here they had on the last page some different lenses, whether it's a dome lens or a flat lens. Not sure really if that's going to be a huge difference, but yeah, nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and use those. We'll definitely use the 3000 lumens. So, okay, so how do we add these to our model element? Well, number one, we can actually just go, we have a few kind of, placeholders over here. We're going to grab one of these here that's an IES light, and I'm just going to copy this over, and we're just going to place it right here under our fixture. So we're just actually going to do a marquee around this to pull all of these up. And so now I want to be able to just see kind of right where that light is positioned. We're going to take this down and we are going to kind of set this. Well, actually, one thing that we need to do here is I'm going to delete out this bottom surface there. So now it's a little bit more concave in there, which is really what we want on these. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one by selecting that surface and deleting, and we'll do the same thing on this last one by selecting that surface and deleting. So okay, so now we can take our light and we are going to drag this down, and we're going to just kind of fit it pretty much right where we think that bulb would be, somewhere like right in this vicinity. And so there we go. We've now placed our light source. We can assign this to our 3D model full. So now it's all connected there. And yeah, there's our light. But if we go and inspect this IES light here, let's just see what it is. So we can see kind of the parameters there. So this is a wall wash sample light. So we can actually go and we need to load in our IES light. And we can do that by adding that into, currently in this file, we have this embedded library of these library parts. We can actually go to our library manager and quickly load in that IES file that we had downloaded. So let's do that now, and we'll just make this available. So, okay, we're going to our IES lights. We don't have anything in this file, but we are going to import a new object here. And so here we have our different lights. So let's go with that 16-inch that we added. We will do, I guess, the dome 3000. So let's go ahead and open that up. So now we've added it to our project. We're just going to hit OK. And so that should have made it available to our selection settings here under this lamp. So let's go in and just see if we can grab it. So there it is. There's our new one. We'll change this over, and we've now added this, and our light distance here. Now I don't know if yeah, that actually is going to change our representation there in 3D. I know these are going to be mounted about 10 feet tall. The light distance on these, this is actually one thing that we'll want to probably play around with in the settings here. It's always good to play around with the light settings before you save out the object. You can always save it over that object later on, but we're going to not have the fall off. Let's use the intensity given from the photometric file, and let's just see what else we have here. Use area, shape, and size given on in photometric file. I don't know if all this is available. but let's just go with it for now. We can always come in and modify these settings later on by resaving this out. Okay, so there's our light. It is in there. We can take this. I'm actually probably going to do this here in 2D. So let's pick up our light source here. We're going to copy it over, and we're going to assign this to our simplified there. Now remember, when we change our different settings here, it should change those as well. So yeah, I can see those changing a little bit there. But I think we're really at the point where we can save this and do some testing with it. So okay, number one, let's I think we've assigned all these. We're going to do, now that we've gone through, we've set up our 6 different configurations on this. We are going to down here at the bottom, let's see. Well, we want to make sure under our check and save that we are set to a lamp, so that's good. Let's go ahead and hit check. It's going to run through and pull out anything that may be an issue. It does say some elements have no component type assigned, which I know in this case are actually these guidelines that we had created here, so I'm not that worried about those. It hasn't really created any issues yet. If we took these and we kind of drag it to the outside and we run this check again, I think it will probably not show those this time, so no issues found. So yeah, that looks good to me. Let's go ahead and let's check our parameters. So by opening this up here, we can see our different parameters. We can see that we do have some fills assigned to this right now. That's the fills associated with this one there. So if we created different fills for different states here, like electrical versus RCP versus low, we'll get different options here. So when those do change by the different MVO settings, that will work for us. But yeah, as of now, I'd say all this looks good. We can always go in and change these settings if we wanted. But we can do that later on in the properties as well. So, okay, it's time to hit save on this. So we're going to do a save as. I'm going to save this under my library part manager lamps. We are going to call this a barn gooseneck 16 inch. Okay. Let's hit save. Oh, we can't save that symbol, so we'll just call this 16 inch. And all right, so time to go do a test on this. So we can see that it's already loaded up here as part of our object. So let's place it. And right now we're on medium detail. So let's go to full detail. We can see how that's changing over for us. We can go to RCP. Our RCP is kind of our full detail is set in our settings here. Our low detail, we can see how that changes. So that is working. Awesome. Let's take this and we're going to check this out in 3D. So, okay, so there we're on our low detail, our medium detail, our full detail. Awesome. So there we go. Now what we are not seeing here is our light source here, but I believe that it's still embedded in there. So let's go into our object settings so we can see that yes, we do have a light source that's embedded in here. But that's one of those things is once you have saved the object with the light source, we don't really get any additional settings there for the light settings themselves. So it's kind of stuck and permanent is what I found once you have created this object. But yeah, now that we have this here, that's great. We can turn off our highlight here so that we can kind of see this in its normal settings. We can change our 3D style so that we are a little bit, you know, closer to what we want. Let's do this. I want to do just like a quick kind of test here on our walls, or by creating a little bit of a wall here. So let's add like a brick veneer wall. We're just going to kind of do a really quick like little, you know, corner section here. I'm just going to grab a slab for our floor. So wood flooring, let's just change this over to like, I don't know, like some concrete pavers. We're just going to create a tiny scene for ourselves here. And what I want to do is just kind of copy a few of these in. We're just going to space a few out. Let's go check this out in 3D, and we'll probably have to adjust our settings there. Okay, so let's go full detail. Now what's kind of interesting there is it looked like it jumped in location a little bit. Yeah, that may be something I needed to adjust there. It looks like our base is good, but something happened and these jumped a little bit in height, but that's okay. Something that we can work out. Obviously we're trying to do this a little bit fast today. So these are going to be mounted at 10 feet is going to be the height on these. Now I want to kind of do a quick check here to see where our 0 point is. So that's another thing that maybe we needed to check. So when I hover over this, I can see 8 feet is that anchor point. So that's probably something I needed to update, is make sure that we were on the 0 point there is where we wanted that. So that's actually something. Let's check this here really quickly just to see kind of where our base point is in relation to 0 here. So, okay. So let's do a quick measure. So that's -2. So that's why we got a little bit off there. So we're going to take all of these. We want to find the bottom point here of our shade essentially. And we're going to drag these up so that we are right at 0. So when we're doing these, we always want to have 0 being kind of the base point on those. So, but what's great though now is all we have to do is we can just recheck our object. We can do a save and just go right over that really quickly, replace it. Let's check it out over here. And you can see that those already adjusted their height. Our new base insertion point there, we can see that we're at 8 feet here. Yeah, that's where we want it. So if we drag this down, that's distance of 8 feet. So perfect. So that way when we specify the bottom of the light fixture, it's exactly where we want based in our elevation settings. Sorry, that's something I should have pointed out earlier. So okay, final step here. Let's just do kind of a quick render on this. We can check our settings very, very fast. Our render settings. So let's just go pick a scene. We'll do a like an outdoor, because these are outdoor lights, outdoor dusk, basic. I really don't want any of those, honestly. Let's do an indoor lamps only. We'll do a medium here. Hit OK. So we only have our lamps and illuminating surfaces turned on. Our background here, let's just, we'll leave that at none. We can do a quick preview, see if those lights are coming through. So yeah, it does look like they are coming through. So those IES files that we brought through, yeah, are there. We don't have any. I'm just gonna actually make this, we'll make our background just kind of like, I don't know, like a dark color. And let's just cap this off by doing a quick render. And there we are. So we've embedded those IES files, which is awesome because that's going to, should be pretty accurate for the light. I don't play around with that a whole lot, but yeah, hopefully it works somewhat okay in this little sample render. And yeah, we can see that the light sources are coming through. And yeah, obviously we don't have any global, well, I think we do have global illumination turned on in this case, but we don't have any sun or anything else here. So very dark scene. Just wanted to check to make sure that these lights were rendering as we had hoped they were, and there we go. So now we have those in. That looks, you know, pretty basic to begin with here, but yeah, that is the workflow for the library part manager. Yeah, we went a little longer on this video than what I thought we would, but yeah, definitely took a little bit of time to model that up. And yeah, now that we have this, it's there. We can continue to make adjustments to any of those statuses later on. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, learned a few things along the way. And now that we have this set, I'm just going to go through, kind of clean up some of these things. We're just going to kind of archive one of these here on the side, and that is the library part manager. So if you want to learn more about the library part manager, then I am working on developing a course on it so that we can go through and explore a lot of the different types of objects and their unique settings that we can go in and create. So from windows to doors, skylights, MEP objects is one of those that I think that this is really going to be useful for building objects with connections. So yeah, lots more to come in the way of the library part manager and training here from CONTRABIM. So yeah, if you are interested in more training on this, then like I said, we're going to be doing a full course as part of the CONTRABIM membership. So definitely go and check that out. And yeah, we'll have a lot more information on that coming as well. So let me know if you have any questions, and we will catch you again here on another CONTRABIM tutorial coming soon. Thanks for watching.